Great. Fantastic, everyone. Well, welcome. And we are really excited that you're here today. And, we believe that, now more than ever, students and teachers as well need to be creative. And, they've got to have the opportunity to solve complex problems, to learn from mistakes, to express themselves, what they know and feel. These are all things that we know we do well, or these are all the kinds of core disciplines and dispositions in the arts that we really want to promote in our school district. So today we'll get an opportunity to look at a simple art activity. In fact, something that everybody can do, anyone, and all of us will get a chance to try. And we can do it at any time. We'll have the opportunity to engage in some discussion around it, to use a thinking routine to make meaning and make meaning of the activity. So, we invite everybody to participate this morning. Invite you to take a risk and be creative. I like to think of art not just as a noun, but as a verb, something that we need to participate in and do to be able to really experience it and learn it. And so we really encourage you to take that risk and to really participate in the activities this morning. So we've got a great panel of people here that I'll take just a second to introduce, and then we'll jump into a quick opening activity. So with me today we have, and you can guys just wave if you can, we have Indy McCasey and Amy Espiritu, who works with our visual art teachers, Sarah Wilner, who works with our elementary music teachers. We also have Malika Ruben Davis, a drama teacher at Westlake, Jennifer Hart, art teacher over at, which one of the Lockwood schools? I'm forgetting at the moment, but you can tell us which one they are in a minute. Linda Green, who is music teacher at Cleveland and Thornhill. And I think that is all, unless I've forgotten anybody. So anyway, welcome this morning, and we're really delighted that you're here. And I am going to toss this over to Indy, who's going to get us going.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Phil. So I'm just noticing that we've got about a quarter of the folks on video right now. So if you are able to turn on your video camera to join us, thanks, Adam. I just saw you hop on. Appreciate that. If you're able to join, great. And if not, thanks, Michael. See you. Julianne, thank you. Michelle, thank you. And I really encourage you, just for this activity, it really helps to be able to see you. For the rest of the folks, you're going to kind of get to see what it looks like when to use a drama activity to kind of do a warm-up, a welcoming, and to kind of have a little fun and play at the beginning of your class lessons. So what we're going to do, everybody that I can see, and I keep seeing more and more of you. I really appreciate that. What we're going to do is you're going to think for yourself, what is something last week that you did that is like super memorable, a memory you had from last week. It could be something that was challenging. It could be a breakthrough. It could be exciting. Think about that memory. And what you're going to do is with your body, you're going to create a pose within your little box, which we can see each other in. You're going to use the part of your body that's visible to make a pose that communicates that like memory, that feeling. So think about what that is. And if your name starts with A to L, I'm going to ask you to strike your pose on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. And if you're not A to L, look around, see some of these poses. Awesome. And pick one pose to kind of think about in your mind that you see. And relax. So if your name starts with M to Z, I love Amy's like holding it like, wow. If your name starts with M to Z, what's a pose that you kind of watched and what did you see? What did that person look like? What were they doing? And feel free to unmute yourself. Michelle Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell Mateo. I love the thumbs up because I was feeling, I won't show my move, but that's where I was in my head. So that's where my eyes went. So thank you.
So you saw somebody do a thumbs up, and for you, it was like, oh, I'm feeling that. It's a double thumbs up. Okay. Yay.
Right.
All right. Finding that connection. Thank you so much. Anyone else? What was the person you picked out? Somebody M to Z who saw an A to L in their pose. Malika, I see you over there.
I noticed Linda, I think jogging or something. Hopefully it was happy jogging and not running away from something, but I liked how expressive the pose was. It stood out to me.
It was actually just walking, but.
So I like that Malika was like, I see this pose and I'm thinking that it's like about running, like maybe Linda's taking care of herself. Hopefully it's not that she's running away from something like the Zoom box or students or things that are overwhelming. Linda's like, no, I was actually walking. But Malika really appreciated the expressiveness of that. We'll take one more. M to Z's, what's another pose that you saw? I really love how people are really bringing a lot in here. Claudia.
Somebody looked like they were frustrated or screaming or something like this.
Okay, so Claudia's, you remember this pose and that's what you saw, and it made you think that like, oh, somebody might be frustrated or there's like frustrated or screaming.
Yep, kind of overwhelmed, but it could have been a good thing.
It could have been a good thing for somebody who did a pose like that. There are a couple people I saw that had kind of this pose. What's a word that describes what you were intending with that pose?
For me, it was mental clarity.
Oh, nice. So just thanks, Amy, because that really shows that Claudia was seeing this and being like, oh, that's got to be frustration or overwhelm. And for Amy, who had that pose, it was like, oh, that's like mental clarity. So it's really great to point out some of the assumptions we kind of make and interpretations, but sometimes also how revealing that could be about different ways that we see a similar thing. I just want to name that, and I'll put it up in just a second. I'm using the thinking routine See Think. There's also wonder in there, but we're not going in there, but it's mostly what do you see and what do you think about what you see? And you'll notice when people say like, oh, I think that's about frustration, I'll ask the person, oh, what do you see that makes you say that? But it's really a helpful skill in developing evidence-based inference, Common Core Anchor Standard, which is being able to say like, oh, I have this opinion about something and I'm backing it up with this evidence or information. So now that we know that, we're gonna do one more round because I have a little bit more time. So if you are an M to Z, you've had lots of time to think about this. What's a pose that describes your last week for you? And I see some M to Zs, and on the count of three, we'll strike a pose. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, and if you were an A to L, you're gonna pick somebody posing right now to just like hold that picture in their memory, in your memory, I mean. All right, hopefully you've got it. All right, M to Zs, relax. A to Ls, what pose did you see? What did you see? You're an A to L. Adam.
Saw Malika doing a lean and listen kind of.
Teach at Thornhill briefly, years ago. She looked like she was having some kind of like divine inspiration. She was like this.
Okay, you saw Adam saw some divine inspiration from Malika?
No, from at Thornhill.
Oh, at Thornhill. Okay, great.
That was Casey, Indy.
Maureen.
I think we skipped Casey.
Okay. So we have, we'll go first talking about Adam saw Maureen doing what looked like divine something. What was it, Adam?
Divine. It looked like she was having some sort of like divine inspiration or
divine
something.
Inspiration. Okay. And so you saw this pose and I like that you repeated it. So you're like, this is what I saw. And it made me think of divine inspiration. Is that Marlene? Is that what you intended, Maureen?
Maureen, that's a lot more poetic, but I was definitely feeling finally being able to just relax and enjoy and take things in last week.
Nice. Okay, so we've got this pose, and Adam was like, this is about divine inspiration. Maureen was like, it's about taking joy and just like having some pause for a little bit. Breath. Love it. And Casey, you had kind of, I forget who you were mentioning, if it was Malika or not, but Casey, what did you see?
Malika had this nice sort of semi-profile, semi-faced with a hand up kind of towards the ear. Can't quite recreate.
Okay, and what did you, just going with the see and the think part of that, what did you think about that?
Either like taking something in or like basking in something.
Taking something or basking. What would be a question? So to follow this routine, see, think, wonder, what would be a question you'd have for Malika?
I wonder where your gazing point is, like what your sort of pose, what is looking at, if there's something you're looking at.
All right. And I'm going to give Malika, because we have a little bit of time. So Casey had that interpretation leading into something. Where's your gaze? you tell us a little bit more about what your post was about?
Yeah, it was about, I've been having my kiddos do appreciations at the end of our Zoom calls, and last week they were like really sweet and touching, just like taking in how like nice they were being to each other and to me. So I was gazing inward, remembering that. Nice.
So I just want to throw up really quick to give you a visual of what that thinking routine looks like. This is the See, Think, Wonder thinking routine. And again, the questions are super simple, and you can tell that I was using them the whole time to facilitate this activity, which is basically, what do you see? What do you think about what you see? And then we got with Casey a chance to really go to the wonder. What do you wonder about? What's a question you have? And these are really great, both activities, like I mentioned before, that really reinforce Common Core anchor standards of evidence-based inference that are across multiple disciplines, as well as, like you saw, it just helps to reveal a little bit more about people. So it's a really great social emotional learning tool, as well as a community builder. So I wanted to stop right there just to make sure we have enough time for the rest of the awesome things that we're about to do. Thank you all so much for participating. I really appreciate folks like joining in, putting on your videos. So thank you all.
Awesome. Hi folks, Amy Espiritu here. I also work with Phil and Indy and Sarah in the Visual and Performing Arts Department, and I'm the liaison with the visual arts teachers in the district. So just to introduce the next activity, it's about being creative with what's around you. This was inspired by an activity I facilitated on our weekly calls with all the visual and performing arts teachers. The original prompt was grab an object within arm's reach, share it with your partners, and now have your partners one at a time share how they would integrate that object into a lesson. And it was fun. So I picked a bowl, and my partners had to then rapid fire brainstorm all the different lessons that they could think of using that. And then we took turns. And so this was a great activity to think about what it may be like for most of our students, having to use what they have access to in order to make learning possible at home. And, you know, it was a great way for us as teachers to stretch our creativity by integrating found objects at home. And so with the next couple of examples by Jenny, Linda, Malika, they're going to show how they're going to find 1 to 3 interesting objects and what you could do with them visually, musically, through gesture. How can you use this in a lesson? So I'm going to pass it, with that said, to Jenny, who is going to take it away.
Hi folks, I'm Jenny Hart. I'm the visual art teacher at Cues and Lockwood, Cues and Futures at Lockwood. Yeah, it is a pretty long name, Phil. So I actually have about 3 activities to share with everybody. So let me get my screen share going. There we go. All right, so for my activities, I actually came up with 3 different activities, not just 3 different objects, with all found objects that I found around my apartment. So I have a found object color wheel that's good for all ages. I have a found object simple symmetry sculpture, and I have a cereal box non-objective sculpture. So let's start with our color wheel. So this one is pretty simple. We can work this into all ages. I actually had some kindergartners that submitted their color wheel to their Seesaw journal over the weekend that did a really good job with it. Basically, students are going to go on a color scavenger hunt around their home and find objects to make a rainbow color wheel. I will share this document after I'm done presenting. I also have a link to a Seesaw Ready activity for this, as well as a video that kind of outlines how to do the found object color wheel. You can put limits on it. You could say, you know, grab 2 or 3 things per color. I had a student that got creative and added more colors. They added black, brown, clear, white, and gray that they also found. They did a really good job explaining that over video. So this is a great option that works across the board. My next option I feel like I'm just sharing my chat. Let's see. So simple symmetry is another easy found object sculpture. A lot of plastic forks and plastic knives end up showing up in this activity, but have students, grab whatever they can find. It could be Cheez-Its, it could be pennies, it could be buttons, paper clips, and just making something that's got radial symmetry is something that's also appropriate for all ages and fun and quick to do. And my last example is a cereal box non-objective sculpture. So non-objective sculpture being, it's abstract art. It doesn't need to look like or represent anything. And the only materials you need are a cereal box and a pair of scissors. So cereal box and a pair of scissors. This one's really more appropriate for, I would say, 3rd grade and up. Basically, you're going to cut the cereal box into pieces. You can specify a set number of pieces, or you can leave it open to students. I didn't limit my sculpture to a set number of pieces. A couple different joining techniques that don't require adhesives or glue are just folding and doing a cut and slot joining technique, which I've shown on this slide. So then this is building in progress. And this is what my non-objective sculpture looked like when I finished doing joining and folding. So I did not use any adhesives. My goal for this was to have this be something that students could do with supplies they have at home and not necessarily have to go out and get things. So those were the 3 ideas that I had. And any questions for me? I haven't gotten to look at the chat yet. Any questions? Thank you so much for giving me a chance to share. I will put a link to the presentation in the chat, and feel free to ask questions. I'll look at the chat now that it's done with my turn.
Thanks, Jenny.
Everyone.
And again, feel free to continue to let Jenny know what you appreciated, what you liked, challenges, and also questions for her. We'll pass it to Malika next.
Thank you. And Jenny, that was awesome. I really loved the color wheel and the radial symmetry the most. So when in the classroom, I was lucky to have a teaching artist who had training with the circus and clowning, and she taught us clown acts and also juggling. And juggling was a really fun moment in my curriculum with drama, but you can also do it at home using found objects. For example, like a lemon or a lime. This is an unripe lemon from my tree. This is a tangerine. If you have actual balls like tennis balls or bean bags or whatever, great, but you can also use something like this. And learning how to juggle with 3 balls is challenging. There's a slideshow that Indy's going to share that has videos from Tristan showing what I'm about to share, plus some more complicated things you can do with 1 ball, plus a 3-ball juggling, and then also ways that you can make your own juggling balls, which I'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, so with one, whoops, you can throw it on the floor apparently, but with 1 ball, it's really easy. Just the basic juggling skill is being able to do a rainbow while you're throwing from hand to hand, and the only thing to be keeping in mind is you want it to be going about eye level, not too high, not too low, so you're in control and have time to catch it. Students, if they're having trouble with that, you can always catch with 2 hands, which is just fine, whatever's comfortable with you. And then the level 2 with 1 ball is something that can become a personal challenge. Just, throwing it up and catching it, and then seeing how many times you can clap in between. So you can clap once, feeling good about that. Maybe you're going to try twice. Ooh, feeling really good. Maybe you'll try to go up to 3. And with this, I would encourage students to, trying to be beating their own personal record versus competing with each other. One teacher commented that they have them try to beat how many they can do, beat the teacher to get a prize and never beat the teacher. But I like it being a personal challenge. And those are the basic things with 1 ball. And I'd say that this would be a great thing to do just as a brain break in the middle of class, or a way to get people moving, little in their bodies, cut through some nervousness perhaps with that personal challenge aspect. And then if people are doing really well with that and want more challenges, as I said in the video that will be in the slideshow, there's more things you can do that I haven't been practicing, but fancier tricks where you can try to get to balance on the back of your hand, which is harder than it looks, or if you're not sitting in a chair, under the leg, behind the back, all sorts of different things that you can do with just one ball. And then if you have more time or wanting to make a whole unit out of it, I found that my middle school students really appreciated the challenge of making their own juggling balls. It's really common to make them with like balloons and rice, but in class I gave them needles and socks and rice and beans, and we actually learned how to sew and sewed them up, and they were really grateful that I trusted them with needles, and just having a little bit of system and structure around how to use the materials and modeling first, they really rose to that challenge and were responsible with the materials and really proud of what they made at the end. So yeah, juggling is super fun. There's lots of ways you could connect it to science or social emotional learning, or just use it as like a wonderful break to connect with ourselves and our bodies and celebrate each other's success. And if there's any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Malika. Awesome. Indy will display in the future juggling with 10 bowling pins, but he doesn't have enough screen space. So with that said, please put your questions, your challenges, your concerns, thoughts, collaborations, ideas to Malika. It's already happening on the chat for Jenny. Amazing. Next up, we have Linda Green with music.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to add, I think juggling helps tracking when you're with your reading to keep your eyes moving, because it's supposed to be good for sight reading. If you're a musician, if you learn to juggle, it helps you keep your eyes moving ahead. I just wanted to add that. So good morning, everyone. I'm an elementary music teacher at Cleveland and Thornhill Elementaries, and I also conduct the Muse Orchestra, which is an Oakland Symphony-based orchestra that meets at Brewer for middle and high schoolers. So, but I want to show you some ways that you can that students can make music around the house with objects that they have. And I am going to share a list of things. Before I do that, I will actually show you a couple items. So here is people who have me in their classrooms know that this is where the cookies rewards come in. This is the Tupperware 10, and if everyone brings their instrument to school, they get cookies that are in one of these. So it's also a drum. Pretty handy. So there's other things that can work as a drum. Any container with a plastic lid and 2 pencils. So I'm going to go to my screen share so I can show you my list. Okay, so a small cardboard box, which I don't have here, but the next one, 2 pencils or pens can be rhythm sticks. An empty dry plastic water bottle, which I don't have, or with dry rice in it, or any small container with beads or rice, or I'm at the end of my coffee here, can act as the shaker. Let's see, forks in a plastic bag. This is one of my favorite ones. You take 4 forks, you ask your grown-ups first, put 4 forks in a plastic bag, fold it in half, and put the tines facing down. Sounds like a tambourine, kind of. Okay. Metal water bottle, and I'm just going to use a table knife. And that kind of sounds like a triangle. So another suggestion is a glass, but I say we might not want to suggest that one. Keys on a keychain. kind of sound like sleigh bells. If you don't have a car thing on here, it sounds better. But you can kind of do. Plastic cup or yogurt container. So this can act as a drum set. This is also, if you remember the cup song from about 2012, this was very popular. You can actually use a smaller cup and do that kind of thing. But there's so many things that you can do with a plastic cup that I discovered in the last few days. That's something that almost everyone has, any kind of yogurt container. And dish towel heartbeat. I know, right? And, oh, this is one of my favorite ones. So I made muffins this weekend. More cowbell. And then 2 spoons. This is a classic instrument where you put the backs together. You put your index finger in between them. And then you can hit them on your leg. Makes kind of a cool percussive sound. That one you have to practice though, definitely. So these are all just examples of things that you can use to make music around the house. And I also think that you can use this to narrate a story. So if you've got a book and you want to make sound effects, there's so many things you can use from found objects around your house. And you can also get your brothers and sisters or your parents to play with you. So you have 2 different beats going at the same time, and it can make a really nice little percussion ensemble. So I can make my list available in the chat, I think.
That would be great, Linda. Thanks again. Give it up for Linda. Thank you for all those examples. Who knew? Who knew that a towel could make a heartbeat sound? That's fantastic. It would be a great challenge to think about, like juggling. How many sounds can your young people make? Can they make 5? Can they make 10? Can they make 15? And what instruments do they sound like? With that said, we're going to go to breakout groups. I'll pass it back to Indy or Phil to set those up.
Great. Actually, Kel will be placing us in groups here in just a minute. And but before we do that, Amy, do you want to talk about what we're doing in those groups?
Absolutely. So in our breakout groups, we'll be in about groups of 4 to 5. You are going to need to find 1 to 3 objects nearby within the room or within arm's reach, and think creatively about what might you do with your objects. Make a sculpture, create a rhythmic beat, recite 2 sentences from a book nearby. So just again, take a moment before Kelleth puts us into groups to find 1 to 3 objects that tickle your fancy this morning. And you will be sharing your creative idea in your small group.
Great. So Kelleth, whenever you're ready, that would be fantastic.
Okay, great. And how much time, Phil, do we need in the breakout rooms?
Let's see. We will need, or Indy, do you have it in front of you?
Yeah,
let's do. Oh, go Amy.
Think about.
I was just going to say we'll take 15 minutes. So hopefully you've thought a little bit about what you might grab. In that time, you're going to not only kind of share out your idea, but also extend that by thinking about how you might incorporate that into a lesson. So what's a quick thing you might do? Maybe you're inspired by something you saw and you'll just, grab 3 things and be like, you know what I want to do? I want to juggle right now. And the way that I'm going to incorporate that is into talking about physics, or talking about just like some quick concepts of gravity, or even just some hand-eye coordination, like Linda was saying, related to music and reading music. So what is something you might do, and then how might you connect it to the other things that you teach. And we'll take a good chunk of time for that. We'll try for the 15 minutes and then meet back actually, we're going to try for 10 minutes and meet back at 11:42. Thanks, Kelly.
All right, so we are moving into our rooms. If you have any technical difficulties, then you can notify me or return to the main room where I will be to help. So we're going to go now.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to be sharing, we can share out one or two people what you saw is particularly interesting, something that inspired you maybe to do something in your, with your teaching. Are we all back? Who would like to share? Can I get one or two people who would like to share something they saw really interesting, just briefly? I think Kelleth has muted us, but you can unmute yourself if you want to share.
Can I share something?
Sure.
I just had to get this off my chest because I learned so much in that breakout and we needed more time. But it was just the fact that I came up with an idea of creating sound. I'm not a musician or anything. I came here to get some answers, and I think it's online, some sounds and duplications of sounds. So quite frankly, I didn't feel like I had to be an expert, but I loved what I saw, and you made me want to create that just from the ground level grid for my kids.
Great, great. That's wonderful to feel like you don't have to be an expert because we can all do this. Yeah. Who else wants to share something that they saw? Claudia?
So Julie had brought some candlesticks that were brought across the seas on the boat, and we just and we had masks that were made out of paper and different sound effects, and we were just saying how you could tell a story with your objects, like the story of a cultural story of your family, how something worked out, and put objects and sound effects to the story.
Nice. Yeah, telling a story with objects. Beautiful drama and also ELA, connections. So I think we're going to move on. I'm going to hand it back to Indy, but I just want to appreciate everybody for such excitement. And in my group, there's a lot of excitement and fun, and also getting to know people. So thank you much for participating.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And I just, again, wanted to appreciate your comment, Connie, about being able to feel like you could be creative. I think a lot of times what keeps creativity out of our classrooms is our own fear, a teacher's fear of feeling like we're not experts enough or we're not artists ourselves. And I just wanted to, Dorian in my group talked about how her kids model her and kind of, pretend to read a book just like her and put on her glasses. And I just think that kids are paying attention to us. And if we can be brave enough to really step forward in our own creativity, our students are gonna follow that. Our students are gonna model that. So we wanted to share out a few resources. I'm gonna share my screen right now. We have a couple of online resources just for folks who are maybe new to these resources. Just wanted to call them out. We have a Google Classroom site that's on the Teacher Central website. You can link to it. And we put up new content weekly. And so there's a lot of great resources, in addition to the fact that we created a Google site that sort of houses these resources, and it's something that is accessible. Google Classroom is just for OUSD teachers to access, but we've created another Google site that you can share with family members and students, and we really wanted it to be accessible content for anybody to access. You can see right here are the artful thinking routines or thinking routines from Harvard's Project Zero. We used the See, Think, Wonder routine earlier today with the poses that we did. So there's more routines in there. You can download that. We also have some awesome inspiration from Chabot students and teacher Adam. I think he was on here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still on here. He is awesome. And so there's different lessons based on discipline. And just to point out one lesson that I recently got addicted to, which is the Ableton intro to beat making. If you access this, I guarantee you might be on your computer for a half an hour creating new beats and having tons of fun with it. So check out that resource. We'll put it in the chat if it's not already in there. But I just wanted you to know that there's a couple of resources. Teacher Central for our Google Classroom site for visual and performing arts content. And then this kind of Google site, OUSD Create, is also available. I'm gonna stop my screen share just to see if there are any questions. Thanks, Amy, for putting them up. And again, thanks, Adam, for that really inspiring video of your students at Chabot. That was super incredible just to get to see. And we wanted to kind of take a little bit of time. If you have a resource that you've been using, feel free to put it in the chat while we're all still here and available. But we actually wanted to, we have a little bit of time to open it up for questions to see if you had any questions for any of the presenters or anything else that you wanted to share out as a resource before we close out our day. So any questions or any resources that folks want to share out? Miss N, would you like to share something?
No.
Okay. Yay. All right, well, if there are no questions, we're gonna end our day by naming one creative thing that you are going to do in the next week for yourself. Again, we love that Connie was like, I tried out something new. I didn't realize that I could bring creativity into my classroom. What is one? I know Dorian, who I spoke with earlier, had just made a box out of redwood. I don't know if you're still on here, Dorian. There you are. Yes, it's a thumbs up. She made a beautiful box out of redwood. I think she's showing it. So if you scroll through your gallery view, you can see she's showing off the awesome box that she made using power tools that she got from a family member. So it's these kinds of activities, like if we're feeding ourselves and nurturing our own creative self, that we can then be modeling for our students. And once you have that sort of excitement, you can always bring in any discipline-based standards into that learning. So think about one thing that you're gonna do for yourself in the next week to nurture your creative self. And we're gonna ask you to throw those things in the chat. And Jenny is saying, working in my sketchbook. Tashi is gonna juggle. Michelle's gonna make a rain stick. Tashi might also try the pose activity. Tamara's doing Chrome Music Lab. Ooh, awesome, just saw that. Elizabeth Woodward's gonna try some watercolors. Stephen Valdez, inshelterzoo.com, just as a resource, paper bag, masks of animals. What else are people gonna do? Let's see, scrolling down. More juggling, a diorama with a story from Epic, an SEL color wheel. Kim's gonna try to learn how to juggle. I love Christelle from Markham is gonna use Destiny Arts African Dance. They have web links, so that's a great resource. Destiny Arts Center has a YouTube channel where they have their teaching artists put out dance lessons and martial arts lessons. So you can find that resource with Destiny Arts Center's YouTube playlist. Band Lab from Deborah Brasotti. Julie's gonna learn the cup movements. You can look up that cup game. Dun, 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 dun. Malika's gonna start a new knitting project. Yes. Dorian's gonna paint a very thick cardboard. And Michael's gonna create different ways to teach music using objects at home. I love that, Michael. Steven's going to play music with his family. Amy's going to create mail art and snail mail it to loved ones. So try to become a loved one of Amy so that you get an awesome art object in the mail. Michelle's going to do outdoor sculpture with natural materials. Adam's focused on using found object symmetry for rhythms. Love that. Amy put up Destiny Art Center's website, so you can look for that resource. Finally, we've got Casey's going to recreate a movie prop with household items. Yes, doing an assignment with my students. And I want to put it out there, everybody, that please hashtag, if you're using social media with your students, please hashtag OUSD VAPA. And I'll put it in here, OUSD VAPA, or hashtag OUSD Arts, so that we can reshare, repost your awesome creations and ideas. And again, we've got all the resources that we mentioned. Teacher Central, we've got our link to our Google Classroom. From there, you can go to our Create site that has accessible lessons and ideas for students and their families. And yeah, we'll stay on a little bit to see if anyone else has any questions, but we're ending a little bit early here. And we just really appreciate you all for joining us today, getting yourselves creative, getting your creative juices flowing, and snap it up and clap it up for all the amazing presenters.
And again, I want to just encourage all of us as we are going into the summer break to continue to find ways to be creative. As if we're creative ourselves, we can certainly bring that for our students. And the more creative we are, the more interesting things and different ways we can engage our classes. So I want to really thank everybody for their hard work, and thank you for all of the the learning curve that we've all endured in order to bring arts learning and learning to our students in some pretty unusual and unique circumstances. So I want to just thank everybody. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your engagement. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and rest of the week.
I want to give also a special shout out to those of you who aren't visual and performing arts teachers. Thanks for taking the initiative to join today and to find out about how you can incorporate the arts into your instruction during distance learning. And I also want to give a big shout out to the team of presenters today. I think this is the 27th 11 a.m. featured webinar we've had during the school closures. I've been here for all of them, and this has definitely been a highlight. It's been a really engaging and lively presentation, and the teamwork of the presenting team has been amazing. So thank you to Phil and all of the presenters today for leading us today and bringing your lens of visual and performing arts to the webinar. So thanks, everyone. We really appreciate you. Remember to take care of yourselves, stay connected with your loved ones, and we'll be signing off now. So have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Yay. Thank you, Kellen.
Bye, Kellen. Thank you.
Thanks, Kellen.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You're an awesome stage manager.
Thank you. You're awesome too.
Hired.
Great
Bye,
presentation.
everyone.
Yeah.